It is Monday, December 8th. It is cold, especially if you're in the Central Valley. The valley fog is lingering. This weather system headed towards the Pacific Northwest, and yes, it is an atmospheric river by definition in my world. Now, we try not to hype storms. I'm not going to hype this, but I'm just going to tell you that's what an atmospheric river looks like. This is the water vapor loop, and it just shows you the moisture coming in, and that's thousands of miles of precip on a straight line, right? So it's not bisected, it's not cut apart, it's not like this. We were calling these, some people call that an atmospheric river, right? It's not. An atmospheric river has a lot of fetch, and it has generally a straight line of moisture, and that's where we're going into the Pacific Northwest. So AR for the Pacific Northwest, water vapor loop here. You see California's in the dry. We'll talk about how that impacts California. Rain and wind in the Pacific Northwest, so it's going to go. And the snow levels will be high, but they'll get a lot of snow. Even Mount Bachelor will probably get some snow, get a lot of snow up top. We'll look at Cali impacts. We'll look at late nature snacks, and we'll go out to the Farallon Islands real quick. Plus lots more, how Verde got its name. So that's Verde. Well, there's a Verde, California, and a Verde, Nevada. We'll look at both. Here is the situation, though. Again, main focus here. Let's look at what we can do is, this is water vapor, so it shows you the moisture in the atmosphere. This is infrared, and it shows you kind of cloud tops. The bright colors represent cold, and really what it shows me when I look at an infrared is vertical development, storm intensity, energy, vorticity. It shows you kind of, when you see the higher lifted clouds, that means there's some vertical velocities. So you see a lot of it, and most of it's happening as it gets to the coastline here, but there's a strong atmospheric river that's going to continue to pummel the Pacific Northwest through Thursday. So lots of watches, warnings, and advisories, including wind, rain, and even surf. When we get to the models, will break that out more specifically for you. In California, the fog is persisting. Yeah, and the atmospheric river doesn't do much to help us because the dynamics are just going to stay north. And it's a fine line. Like I have seen, and you have seen this too. So here's, let's say that's Coos Bay, Oregon. They're going to get, I don't know, a bunch of rain, and then you go south down towards Cape Mendocino, which is what, 1 degree of travel, or let's call it 100 miles. You're going to get almost no rain. So in a very short distance, you're going to see big rain differentials. And that's what atmospheric rivers do. I've seen it at the Golden Gate Bridge in the difference between San Francisco on one side of the bridge and Marin County, Mount Tam on the other side of the bridge. I've seen rainfall differences of, maybe a ½ inch in San Francisco, 6 inches on Mount Tam as the crow flies to Mount Tam, which is maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles. So there you go. And with this atmospheric river, we're going to see some erosion of fog in the northern part of the state. So Redding, I think you make out okay. We'll look at some of the fog. We'll go deep into the fog and look at temperatures, but there's not much disturbing or not much to disturb the fog, meaning a pressure gradient or anything like that. In the mountains, they'd love to be making snow, but it's warm. It's 40 or 37 degrees at North Star right now. They were skiing yesterday. There's somebody with skis on right now. The way they make snow, Billy Hudson was telling me, the way they make snow is interesting, not how you make it, but they pile it up. They like to, at least Palisades likes to put it into a big pile and let it sit, let the water drain out, and really make it dense, and then you spread it out. Because Billy was telling me the other day, he goes, once you spread it out like this, that's when it starts to go. If you have a giant pile of snow, when you pile, and then and it sits there for a while, you can hold on to it, let the water drain out, kind of make it more robust, and then spread it out. Oh, this dude's struggling, man. Oh, man. Oh, that was kind of funny. Okay, there's the train pipe. So that's North Star. So I shouldn't make fun of somebody who's learning to ski. This is Mammoth, and they're doing well, but they're still 33 degrees. I don't think they're open today. I know the chairlift's moving. 33 degrees on Mammoth, and they have really beautiful coverage, don't they? I think part of the reason they get such good coverage too is most of Mammoth, a lot of Mammoth is above tree line, that's why you don't see trees. And I think it's easier to spread it out. I think it's easier to manipulate the snow to get it the way you want it. And in the trees, it's harder, right? You get tree wells, you get pile ups, you get drifts. This shot is Mount Shasta from Wairika. Take a look at the clouds. And Mount Shasta is an interesting spot on this atmospheric river event over the next 2 or 3 days, is because they're right on the tip of it. So they're going to get some snow on Mount Shasta, at least one of the 3 days. Beautiful shots, sun rays going across. That looks cool going across the landscape. But this is the southern end of the storm, essentially. Mount Shasta from Wairika. Wairika today is going to go about 55 degrees. This is over by Goose Lake. And we talked about Goose Lake before. Goose Lake is kind of on this is the edge of Goose Lake. Part of it is in Nevada, part of it is in California, this part, and part of it is in Oregon. Most of it's in California. It dries up once in a while. Like every 10 years or so, it kind of dries up and becomes a dry lake bed, kind of alkaline. So they're going to be up in the low 50s today up by Goose Lake. And let me move forward here as we take our tour through California and then get to the weather models. Smith River Drainage Basin. This is Crescent City looking out. And again, you see this is what it looks like to be right on the edge of a weather system. You can see the clouds. You can see the fog in the valleys too. That's kind of awesome. See how it kind of builds up, the valley fog. And yeah, they'll get some rain. Crescent City's going to get some rain out of this too. You'll see in the models coming up the rainfall accumulation. Crescent City's going to get a ½ inch of rain, easy, maybe an inch of rain, but when you get south, it's not going to happen. This is my Red Bluff shot, my new favorite camera, Mount Shasta right here, or Mount Lassen, pardon me. But you can see that north end of the valley in the fog, right? So Red Bluff is right here probably. And then Chico's down here. But as you go up this way, the fog's starting to get eroded because, again, I showed you the picture from Mount Shasta, right? So I know you're like, why are you doing that, Bill? But I think it helps. So Mount Shasta, right? And look where Mount Shasta is not that far away. It's just to the north a little bit. So that line on the atmospheric river is pronounced. And as you look at this, you see that there's a few clouds coming in, but most of that activity is to the north. This is the Smith River drainage. This is the Red Bluff area. And then this is Mount Tamalpais, I believe. Yes, it is. Mount Tam? Yeah. And so we're down towards the Bay Area. And whenever you see the valley fog spilling out the gate, we talk about the shipping accidents and the maritime issues. But, I mean, dude. And I had I posed the question the other day. Again, San Francisco would be right here. Sutro Tower is I can barely see it right there. Pacific is here, and then Golden Gate Bridge is here somewhere. But when the fog gets pushing out like that, that's intense. Now, I mentioned the other day, I can't remember a fog this prolific. And then somebody mentioned, God, I remember 77. And I clicked in, I go, yeah, 77, because that was a huge drought. That was the first big drought that most of us, that I can remember. And that was that was huge drought. We were water rationing and whatever. But you had this, basically, to get a drought, you got to have these high pressure and patterns. And so somebody brought up, 77 had a similar footprint. So I thought that was interesting. And I can remember, I was a senior in high school in 77. I don't remember much from that. I just was such an idiot. But I do remember it being, in Paradise, it was nice because we were above the inversion. But then there's Mount Tamalpais. Mill Valley today is going to be cold. San Francisco today is going to be cold again, 50s, low 50s, mid 50s. This is Verde. This is Verde, California, looking back towards Reno, Nevada. And I guess there's Verde, California, and Verde, Nevada. It's split. The city line went right through it. And I was reading up on Verde a little bit. 1860, the Central Pacific Railroad went through and kind of made a game, and the railroad goes right through here, right? You can see that's by the freeway too, I think. The road's right there. But they made a game of naming the towns because they were in such a hurry. I talk about the railroads all the time because it happened quick, man. 1860s, and then all of a sudden there's people here in 1860s, and they wanted town names. They wanted people to move out here, blah, blah. So they would name towns after like famous European composers, Verdi. They would name towns from notable figures, obviously, and then drawing names from a hat. And in this they put a bunch of composers into a hat, and drew a name, and they got Verde. Verde, I hope I'm saying it right, Verde. So it's from the composer, and I had a classical music class when I was in college, and I remember Verde. Verdi. I don't remember it well, but I remember it. What else I got for you on there? Yeah, so that's how they got it named. That's how Verde got its name. But it is interesting, because that's what explains a lot of the weird-ass names around, just near the railroads, on the railroad lines, because they were just they got to name it something, man, right? The telegraph lines are going in pretty quick, so they would just go, yeah, call it Verde. And can you picture that? Can you picture that meeting? Literally, two guys in a beer bottle deciding how to name a town that now, of course, is on the maps. This is Mount Diablo, and again, you're looking out towards. In this case, you're looking got kind of a little past the Livermore Valley, out towards Mountain Home, and out towards Stockton, Fresno, Modesto. But that's the valley fog from Mount Diablo, which is pretty far up there. Mount Diablo is 3,849 feet up, higher than Diablo. And then this, again, we're above the fog. This is Fresno. Is it? Mount Diablo, Verde, Reno. Alama. Huh. I got lost one here. This is kind of out down towards down towards Fresno area, Fresno County, and you see the fog in the valley. There you go. And then this is Halama, and then no valley fog, not getting over the coastal hills. And places like Santa Barbara have been crushing it, this pattern, crushing it, beautiful weather. This is from Laguna Beach looking east. That is Trabuco Canyon. That is that's the Santa Ana Mountains, and it's a Santiago Peak, which is 5,600 feet high. So it's a pretty high peak. So this kind of like Irvine would be out in this area. Again, Trabuco Canyon out here like that. Okay. Little tour of the state. Now we get into the weather nuggets. Wind coming into the Pacific Northwest. And they're doing it through, what do they say? I think I'm seeing through Thursday. They got a lot of these advisories up. And then this is Seattle area. So the browns represent wind advisories, wind warnings, wind watches. Green represents kind of rainfall issues, flooding, things like that. Coastal flood advisories, because we still have the king tides, which are lessened, but still there. And these seem to tend, let's see, they're going to run this through until December 12th. So you got a couple days of this kind of atmospheric river component. We go south a little bit into Oregon, and you see they got the rainfall, total expected rainfall, which looks kind of weird to me. That's got to be moderate rainfall. That doesn't look right to me. Through Wednesday night, so they're pulling Thursday out. So they're only showing an inch of rain in the coastal hills. It looks like the main plug's going to be further north up in Washington. Yeah, I guess it will be. Huh. Well, we'll see. We'll look at the models, and that'll clear that up. I thought Oregon would see a little more, but I guess that's true because you're right on the border. There's California right there. Happy camp an inch. We'll look at the models directly, and then California, small craft advisory offshore, which is interesting because the small craft advisory usually hugs the shoreline, doesn't it? But what's happening is the winds, say, usually that purple will be right on the shore because it's northwest wind, but the winds are offshore. So when they get out here over the water, they kind of, this area near shore is blocked by the coastal hills, right? So the wind, but the actual offshore wind a little higher up is making it out into the open ocean, 10, 20 miles out by the Fairlawns. And that's creating a small craft advisory. So, yeah. All right. And then dense fog advisory as well. Right? I know. And then this is down towards Visalia, and the dense fog advisory. Not as prolific fog advisories because we talked about when the fog starts forming, it's right down the ground. But after weeks of this stuff, the fog, the layer, the inversion still exists, but the fog's not right down on the ground. It's kind of more of a low cloud, not down on the ground. Because valley fog's the thing, man. It gets low on the ground, you can't see, especially in those first few days of accumulation and growth. Forecast highs for today. A little warmer in Reading. So what they're looking at is that same thing we just looked at, right? Where there's this system is all this is going to the north. May not be rain here, but there will be enough mixing that 63 in Reading, 53 in Chico, right? So 10 degrees warmer in Reading because Chico's in the fog, Reading's not. Or that's the plan anyway. And that makes sense next couple of days. I think Reading's going to have a kind of benefit from this atmospheric river. Look at 65 in Reading, 56 in Chico again. So same thing with tomorrow. So this is today, and this is tomorrow. No difference. And in the meantime, we're waiting for rain, man. So I call this an atmospheric river because it is. This is what we call an atmospheric river, and we've discussed this at length on this channel. But there needs to be a protocol for these. You can't just every storm can't be an atmospheric river because technically almost every storm to some extent is because it's got an infusion of moisture from these tropical areas, from down here, the purple areas. But this, and the way that I think you should interpret an atmospheric river is that just a 2,000-mile band of moisture in a linear progression, not all broken up into little pieces, but just a straight plug of moisture originating from the tropics. And that's what we got. And that's why we see the watches and warnings in the Pacific Northwest. And that's why we're going to see a huge differential between where it rains and where it doesn't. So South California circled. And then this is the next couple of days. And then you see it keeps intact. Keeps intact. And then it feeds off a little. This is Thursday. It starts to wind down for them on Thursday. But today's Monday. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it dies out on Thursday afternoon. And then it kind of, but you see, this is, and look at most of California and Nevada. Look how the browns, that's how dry it is. That's nothing. So when's our next chance? There it is right there, 16th. And that's nothing. It actually peters out. I know. When I say our next chance, and then, yeah. So that's the fuel. If it it certainly will go down that way the next 3 days. So in the Pacific Northwest, this will be interesting for you, I hope, because there's California, right? Oregon, Washington. And what I want to show is just how precise the rain is. Accumulations, this is through tomorrow morning. So they're going 2 inches of rain, 3 inches of rain between now and tomorrow morning in Seattle. 3 inches of rain. And then here goes into Wednesday morning, right? Atmospheric rivers, man. It's not a frontal system. It doesn't slide through and move kind of from the north to the south and a little bit to the east. This thing just stays on a rope, and that's why they can be so devastating. That's why in '82 in California, that was the drought. That was the event, an atmospheric river event during that El Nino in 1982. That got us kind of out of the drought. Remember 77? We just talked about that with the heavy fog and the dry conditions, the biggest drought I can remember. And then a couple years later, 82 comes around, Lake Oroville fills up because we get an atmospheric river that just focuses on California. And we had problems, a lot of problems. So there it is. So this is through Saturday. And then, so look at California's left out. This is December 16th. I know, look at that. Now it's December 20th. And then somewhere around Christmas, I don't believe it, but that's pretty telling, isn't it? It sure shows you how precarious climate is and weather is in California. If it just decides to turn off, it turns off. And you get a couple years. I'm not calling drought at all, but because we're doing good for rainfall right now, but by Christmas we won't be at this rate. But there have been periods of drought in California historically that have lasted. This is just going way back. This is my old climatology days. But there's, these dendrochronology is when you look at tree rings, and the thickness of the ring will tell you how much rain it got, right? It was a big wet year, so the ring's thicker. You can count. So they go way back, and they go back in some of these historical records. climatologists, and they found droughts have lasted 50 years in California, longer than that even. And I think, and I've read some things that suggest maybe that's where the big Indian tribes ended up going other places to the north and to the east. Because California, if you think about California, and then you probably know some of this stuff. I don't. I just read enough to be dangerous. But California, the Central Valley is probably one of the most, especially from Stockton north to Klamath Falls and to Crescent City. Talk about salmon, fish, abalone. I mean, there was a lot of food potential, a lot of ways for huge tribes. And so when the Europeans get here, there's not that many Native Americans. There's just not that many. And it's like, oh, that's kind of weird, right? You look at the history records from the gold rush. It's like there were a few Native Americans around, but there wasn't an Indian nation, So it's like I think the droughts, those historic droughts, have something to do with it. It's just me. This is just me just thinking about it. But anyway, it just shows you how. I mean, if it turns off here in this state, it won't. But if it will again. But I'm just saying this is I'm not calling drought. I'm just saying. You realize, oh my God, if it turns off, we're a huge economy for the United States, right? One of the largest economies in the world, and we're a state. Anyway, and we need rain, so we're not going to get it this run. So here is the 500 millibar vorticity, ridge. Well, here's the atmospheric river. Everything's north. You see where we are, nothing, almost, a little something to the south, maybe some sprinkles. And then this is December 16th. It's energy, but it doesn't show up good at the surface. And then, I mean, that's a really ominous pattern if that were to transpire. And then sea level pressure, rainfall. Right, and you know what to look for. Those lines aren't close together, so the fog stays put, rain stays north. Dude, we're into December 15th. We're into December 16th. We're into December 20th. There's something right around there, December 21st. So, again, that's not going to happen. It's just kind of like, it sobers you up, though. You go, what if that did happen? Maybe I should not let the water run when I brush my teeth or flush the toilets, But it will change. I'm sure it will. But it's just sort of like, So these are rainfall accumulations, and this is going to show what you think it's going to show, right? This is all the way through December 16th. It's 8 days away. And so this is talk about a recipe for valley fog. That's certainly it. So what did I just say? More of the same. Pacific Northwest gets spanked, tons of rain. They used to name towns by drawing names from a hat because they were in such a hurry to populate the area when they put the railroad in. Yeah. I got some nature snacks to look at too. We're going to look at the Farallon Islands. I think I got a good shot today. So there's the atmospheric river. Shows up clearly. This is infrared, not enhanced, but just infrared. Yeah. Okay. Hope you're having a good day. I am kind of bummed. I'm not digging this cloudiness. It's like after a while, it's like, okay, enough already. And I live in a place where we don't typically get fog. San Francisco doesn't typically get valley fog. Can occasionally, but not day after day after day. This is the watches and warnings. Those are browns or wind advisories, wind watches. The greens are in the Pacific Northwest, Cascades. They're loading up because they're going, that's where the rain's going to fall because this is going to be it's an atmospheric river, which tends to favor orographics, which tends to rain most when it hits topography, which is the Cascade range. And then you see nothing, no watches or warnings for us. Okay, and above average, you know that. 6 to 10 days, and rainfall will be below average. We'll start looking at the percents of average. We'll look at them tomorrow because they're still really up there, but we had so much rain early. Bunch of earthquakes. Saw another big earthquake in Japan this morning. We'll see if we can find it. This is that quake from yesterday. This was the 7.0, and you see these are all the aftershocks. So this is, I guess the one at the top. How's that working? I guess these are all aftershocks and they stack. No. The most recent ones are up high. Pardon me. Sorry, guys. And then the white ones go further back. So they're earthquakes. Just a lot of quakes. There was a little quake in California, out by San Ramon again today. This earthquake in Japan has a bunch of aftershocks. There was a 7.6, they're saying, in Japan. And it was at, let's check this out, 12.8, so that's us. 6.15, let's see. Any tsunami warnings? Tsunami threat, magnitude 7.6, depth 32. Not seeing a tsunami threat. Let's see what they put in there. That won't stick. Come on. Not seeing any warnings. That's weird how it's doing that. Okay, aerial threats, earthquakes. It's a big quake though. It's on the Ring of Fire, but I'm not seeing anything to represent a tsunami threat. I'll dig deeper in that. This is the surf forecast. It's not that big. It's kind of staying small, and most of the activity is be up in the Pacific Northwest. Ocean Beach today, that's valley fog at the ocean, not coastal fog, valley fog. This is usually some of the best weather of the year in San Francisco, but it's not. This is San Clemente, I think T Street. It's kind of stupid when you get that many people sitting on one peak. And I guarantee you there's chirping out there because the wave's not that good. Don't stop now, dude. I'm sick. I get it. Anyway, it's crowded. And then this is Mount Shasta. All right. So really, I just told you more of the same, except if you're in the Pacific Northwest. And Shasta's awesome because it's right on the edge. Shasta's going to get some snow out of this, but it'll be high elevation snow. They'll get a little bit of rain too. But most of it, I mean, it's going to be minimal for sure. And then Crescent, and then this is, I'm running out of time. This is Mount Whitney. Beautiful. This is Palisades, making snow, but not because it's 42 degrees. Heavenly Valley would like to make snow, but they're not because it's 38 degrees. They got a little bit down, but you can see how hard it is to get it going. And they're not getting any help. These are the sea lions at the Farallones. They like it out there because there's so much food, because there's so many predators, sharks and whatever, that people stay away. And so the seals actually kind of like that because the people are almost more of a concern to the seals than the sharks. And then this is Venice Beach. All right, there you go. Beautiful day. Venice Beach goes 67 degrees today. I left out a bunch of stuff. But the plan here is steady as she goes, and the fog just going to slosh back and forth. North Valley has a better shot at getting some clearing. So, you guys up, Hamilton City, Red Bluff, kind of right on the edge there. I think you're going to see some sun. And if you're like me and you're getting sick of it, just go up Mount Tam or something, or go somewhere where it's not quite as low. Venice Beach got good weather. Okay, I'll see you back here.